Interested as to whether the appropriate limit on these covered bonds is 10% and whether it should be enshrined in statute. Thank you.
I call Todd McLeay.
Speaker, thank you. It's a pleasure to rise and speak on the Reserve Bank of New Zealand Covered Bonds Amendment Bill. And I just want to go briefly into parts of the bill and the importance of it. But I wanted to say to the last speaker in this debate, when he recognised the government needs to focus and do more around savings, exports, shoring up the economy, less wastefulness in spending, that was a glowing endorsement of the hard work of the national government over the last 3.5 years. Because, Mr Speaker, that's all that our work has been about. Bringing up saving rates, focusing on exports, shoring up the economy through an extremely difficult time, getting rid of unproductive spending within that economy, and certainly New Zealand has recognised that only a few months ago. Now, Mr Speaker, this is an important piece of legislation, a technical bill, not an overly exciting one, but important because it will give greater surety to investors, greater certainty to banks, and strengthen the role of the Reserve Bank when it comes to the role of these banks. The Reserve Bank Amendment Bill establishes a legislative framework for the issuance of covered bonds by New Zealand registered banks, and again to provide greater clarity for these investors. Legal certainty will increase economic efficiency and financial stability, because banks will not have to pay an uncertain premium that they would otherwise with uncovered bonds. They can have significant benefits for registered banks as a long-term source of relatively stable finance. In fact, Mr Speaker, stable finance is very important to New Zealand investors and to New Zealand businesses. Just look all over the country at the moment. The thousands of people who have mortgages who talk to their banks and shoring up those mortgages at record low interest rates, in part because of the good economic management of this government. New Zealand banks depend upon offshore wholesale markets for their funding, and this will give greater certainty to them in these markets. Now, a couple of the challenges that the current arrangements provide to our banks that this legislation seeks to address. Our banks are currently able to issue covered bonds using contractual arrangements, structured covered bonds. I note in Europe and many other countries, covered bonds have been issued under country-specific legislation frameworks for many years. In recent years, most countries have their banks active in issuing covered bonds, have also implemented a legislative framework, including Australia of recent. This legislation will help bring New Zealand into line with these other countries and international best practice in this area. Mr Speaker, look forward to this coming to committee, so as the last speaker said, we can hear from others around some of the more technical issues of this bill, but this gives certainty to New Zealanders that the government is focused on what's important and helping our banks to continue to deliver for them in a cost-effective and certain manner, and I commend it to the House. Thank you.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Speaker, this